Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Technology Touchpoints, Parenting in the Digital Dystopia by Loretta L.C. Brady, Ph.D., M.A.C. Narrated by Allyson Johnson. Introduction. This is a story about a family coming of age at the same time as smartphones and social media. A multiracial family coming into its own as windows into social injustice opened before our very screens. A multi-parent, multi-professional family with children living differently depending on which house and which combination of family members happened to be home. While it is a story about a family, it is really the story of the global actors, policymaking, the technology industry, and the impact between these entities and the social and global changes unfolding on our doorsteps. In the time since writing first began on this story, predictions and observations within the family are playing out in the broader culture, and the mirror the family story provides reveals a prism through which each of us, either as educators, parents, or policymakers, might come to understand the various technology touchpoints that impact and can be impacted by our individual and collective decisions regarding technology adoption. Throughout the text, listeners will recognize cultural touchpoints that reflect deeper human and technology development patterns we would all do well to understand, no matter whether or how we choose to engage in the ever-innovating digital frontiers. Informed by research and interviews with leaders in policy, human development, ethics, and technology, the book makes complex systemic challenges and findings related to technology and human development easier to understand and appreciate. Chapters 1 through 5 describe the incidents and research that help underscore the relationship between technology and social development. Chapter 6 outlines the key framework I and others propose to help support decisions around technology development and adoption. Chapters 7 through 12 help to outline specific sensitive periods in human development that are most likely influenced by technology adoption. Chapters 13 through 15 review ways to use the findings on technology's impact in guiding current adoption decisions and future developments, and the ways we might all urge policy changes that can improve our social and individual flourishing. This work would not have been possible without the lived experience of being a parent with a technologist partner. Nor would it have been possible without the opportunity to conduct my own research afforded by my career as a psychologist and a professor. Ultimately, this work wouldn't have been written if these realities were not also coalescing with Steve Jobs' career and company. So, as we enter the family story, here's a shout-out to Apple and my early adopter husband, and to my kids, who challenge me with screen time limits and deal with my own personal limits of always assuming the worst outcome and too often being in my head. Welcome to the chaos. The story is not a prescription, and the recommendations are not a finished map. Instead, it's a guide into perhaps one of the most essential conversations we need to navigate if we want to recognize what being human means in the digital world we have co-created and that increasingly is creating us. 1. Parenting in the age of anti-social media. My entire parenting life has unfolded during the growth of cloud computing, the release of Facebook, 2006, oldest son and daughter, iPhones, 2007, middle son, iPads, 2010, middle daughter, and influencers, 2011, youngest daughter. As a psychology professor aware of childhood's most sensitive periods of neurological development, I ask myself questions I can't often answer. 1. How can I keep my children's cognitive development full and flexible, and their reputations and images safe from outsiders? 2. Can I raise kids in this digital world who actually care about others? 3. Can I foster a techno-literacy that makes my children savvy to how others might manipulate their attention, take their money or their trust, and impart beliefs that aren't in line with theirs or our family's values? It's one of the last lazy Saturday mornings before the semester begins. All 5 of my kids are sprawled out on the living room couch, each with a device in hand, iPhones, an iPad, and gaming controllers. They are all locked and loaded, yet nobody looks up as I enter. "We're all playing Minecraft," says my oldest, well practiced in underscoring the positives of gaming with siblings. I couldn't sleep the night before, addled by anonymous notifications and emails listing my presence on a white nationalist database. My photo and contact information were posted in retaliation for a recent forum I had participated in on workforce diversity and immigrant economic integration. Before I knew it, the list of attendees, first published in a local conservative newspaper, was picked up by industrial-strength haters. From a few racially tinged headlines, the list became newsworthy, sparking increased vitriol in comment sections and inboxes, and precipitating the worst of the often diluted racism and fear in our small-town New Hampshire community. After 4 days, I was emotionally exhausted by my own rage over how the entire event had been run and the resulting outcome. But by the weekend, I had finally formulated what I wanted to say to the reporters who had reached out for comment. I sat typing up my response while my kids played alone together in their own Minecraft world. A robotic voice calls from the TV, where my kids are focused as they manipulate the console remotes. "Girl, you need Grammarly. LOL, LOL. "Ah!" my youngest screams, giggling at the online taunting they just received. They type back, and my son narrates actions. The girl, outraged, types in reply. She goes all in on her troll. Laughter fills the room where they play. I see cooperation. I see mental math skills as they calculate which resource to pay or pick up. I see typing and writing skills in the dialogue boxes they populate with one-liners and verbal takedowns and trash talk. All is friendly, giggles from every corner. Big Sister is providing overall coaching about the next part of the virtual world they will explore. It reminds me of my research lab and of my husband's high-tech offices. Individually focused effort, but constant group feedback about essential tasks, unnecessary boasting, and purposeful focus. It's a stretch, maybe, but maybe it isn't. Maybe my kids, when they encounter trolls as I have this week, will be prepared, more prepared than I, sitting on my reply for 4 days, in navigating the virtual and literal worlds where such abuse might occur. Will my youngest know better than me how to detect the difference between friend and foe, intent and impact, wise and unwise thoughts to share, be freer to reply from a place of clear affirmation and support and bravery where I hesitate and analyze? I don't know, but I see an ease in reply and witticisms that I suspect might be useful preparation for the tomorrow I can't foresee. Even so, there is an undertone of how wrong I might be. After I tell the kids they have 15 minutes, my mom guilt catching up to me by lunchtime, I say it is time to play together in real life. "This is real life," my youngest says. And I see she is not wrong, but I know she can't possibly be right. The hardest technology and kids question I find myself asking, how did we get here? There are so many of us. Earlier, before the hate list that same summer, we had met 8-year-old Ben on the beachside playground. A woman in her 60s was watching from a table as he swung his hands in the air and moved his knees sideways repeatedly. She studied the boy for a moment, then shouted, "Orange Justice!" correctly naming the dance performed by players of the latest online gaming trend, Fortnite. It had been popular in our area for a few months by this point and was about to celebrate its first-year anniversary. "Hey, that's pretty good. You are up on the lingo." I laughed as I approached the picnic area where she was sitting. I hauled over the bags and bottles from a day at the beach with 5 kids. She introduced herself as Ben's grandmother. She had sparkling, kind blue eyes, and her grandson was brown-haired, freckled, and a little chubby. While he was gleeful, she seemed worried. "Well, I don't know if I know it all yet." She sighed, shrugging her shoulders. By now, my 2 youngest, both around the same age as Ben, had joined in the handshaking and knee sways. Ben changed up his movements, and my middle daughter shouted, "Jubilation!" She and her younger sibling joined in an altogether different dance move, this one involving rapid tiptoe steps with hands raised above their heads. "They play this too?" his grandmother asked, her eyes meeting mine, hopeful but cautious. "Do you think it's okay? I mean, he seems like he's addicted to it." I understand her concern. I shared it. Ben's grandmother and I had both been swept by a wave we hadn't known to watch for. The young children in our lives had become obsessed with an online, multiplayer, first-person shooter game that was marketed to entice our pop-culture-enamored, athletic, competitive yet cooperative kids who were content to take risks in completely safe ways. While I was commiserating with her, I also felt obligated to demarcate the line between my younger children, then ages 6 and 8, and my older children, then ages 10 and 12. "Actually, they don't play yet, but their older brothers and sister do," I explained. "You are right, though. They do get caught up in their games. Those game makers know what they're doing." Within a few moments, my little ones had begun playing with each other on the playground. My older kids arrived with drinks they bought from the concession stand. Sipping their drinks, they continued their conversation, which merged seamlessly into ours. It seems we both had been discussing Fortnite. Their conversations centered on characters, map locations, and weapon options. The woman's husband came over just as the older kids' talk turned to the weapons of Fortnite. Overhearing this, my face grew concerned. "We don't allow weapons in our house," Ben's grandfather said pointedly, making eye contact. His grandson jumped in. "No, Pop, just in the video game, those ones." His grandfather sat down, certain of his house rules, but not really following the conversation his grandson was having. He checked his phone, ignoring an incoming call and putting it on silent. "We had to leave the house," the grandma continued as all the kids moved away from the picnic table to the swings. Grandpa looked back in our direction. "I don't know about this world he's growing up in. I sure hope they figure it out soon, for his sake." It was a hot summer day, nearing dinner time. Her husband looked exhausted. I felt exhausted. A glance around the park revealed a mom pulling a wagon with a toddler holding a phone as a video played. The toddler's 4-year-old sister was still on the playground, but she appeared to be the only one of the groups with much gas left. The sister was attempting to tell my younger children about her success climbing the playground equipment, but they were taking the opportunity, thanks to my own distracted chatting, to spirit away my iPhone to the playground. I watched them holding the phone in selfie mode and talking at the screen as they captured a video of themselves climbing on the playground equipment. What were a middle-aged Afro-Latina psychologist and a couple of 60-year-old white grandparents who had raised 4 children to successful adulthood plus 6 grandchildren concerned about anyway? Surely there must have been something timeless about this conversation. While Fortnite was foreign and concerning for us 2 stably married and housed, well-educated women with our typically behaving children, I sensed that a few years earlier we might have talked about YouTube, a few years before that about tablets, a few years before that about gaming consoles, and so on, back to the 1970s. I might have overheard a woman like Ben's grandma asking my grandmother whether so much TV time was really a good idea. On the one hand, I felt calmly aware that we were having a timeless conversation. On the other hand, I had to admit to myself that I had already begun having doubts of my own. My older kids had experienced a school lockdown the school year prior, in the wake of the February 2017 Parkland, Florida school shooting, initiated by rumors of an anonymous message seen on some other child's social media. My oldest son was receiving messages in the email account I monitored, inviting him to join a group playing games on Discord, a site that also was in the news for having prominent alt-right players. Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland school shooter, was purported to be alt-right himself, having ties to white supremacists and reportedly known for hurling slurs at minorities. I had had trouble getting another child to delete a profile on a social media site I had asked them to avoid. Even my youngest children seemed to be too focused on screens at the expense of the imaginative play I had seen their older siblings engage in at the same ages only a few years before. Mostly, though, I worry that I'm too late, or that my latest anxiety du jour will be supplanted by a new one, like a bad TikTok video replaying endlessly in my mind. The new normal. While my family is larger than the current American average, among families with children aged 8 and under, we are hardly alone. By 2016, the percent of children with access to some type of smart mobile device at home, for example, smartphone or tablet, had jumped from half, 52%, to three-quarters, 75% of all children in just 2 years. 72% are playing games, watching videos, or using apps, up from 38% in 2011. The trend is not slowing or reversing. In fact, by my youngest's preschool years, more than 38% of children under 2 years old used a mobile device for media, compared to 10% in 2011. My family also isn't alone in the way our children's use of electronic screen devices has become harder to control. Even when families like mine try to stick to only selective applications and websites, there is a challenge in knowing what to trust and what to scrutinize, and plenty of bad actors looking to leverage that confusion. Apple settled a 2011 class action suit brought by families whose very young children ran up very large bills, purchasing thousands of dollars worth of digital items while using the iPad, and they promised to fix the issue. While the solution helped, the actions the company elected to take were done not to protect users per se, but to ensure its users would still download those apps and allow their pre-literate children to safely play with those devices. Educational apps, the number of which as of January 2015 stood at 80,000 in Apple's App Store, were and remain largely unregulated and untested. While we are not alone as a family, neither are we without guidance. Guidance comes in many forms. Recognizing the widespread use of digital media technology by young children, the National Association for the Education of Young Children, NAEYC, and the Fred Rogers Center for Early Learning and Children's Media issued a position statement on technology and interactive media in 2012. At the core of the statement was the notion that digital technologies are another experience that can empower children's learning. Child-initiated, child-directed, teacher-supported intentional play with digital devices can serve as a powerful and positive learning experience, and yet it can feel overwhelming trying to create such an approach in a classroom or home. Technology tools have clearly transformed how parents manage their daily lives and seek out entertainment, how teachers use materials in the classroom with young children to communicate with parents and families, and how these children learn. Manners and mattering. On the drive home from the beachside playground, my boys are in the back, one reading a book and the other playing mental games in order to stay awake. He fails. The younger ones are riding in the middle seat. My oldest daughter wants to listen to music on her iPad, my easy listening station apparently pushing her patience to its limits. It's a device-free day for her, a rule I had set that morning, attempting effective mothering during a summer day that I regularly feel guilty for missing. I grant her access, but immediately regret it. She pushes away the notifications of missed messages she received while we toured. She is moody after scanning them, and I watch her impatiently selecting different music. She shifts in her seat as I reach to pat her leg in reassurance and support. 7th grade is on the horizon, and I recognize the signs of her emerging self. She settles into the ride home. Once home, the younger kids immediately want my phone again. They set up a shot, narrate an intro, and advise their video viewers, consisting of them and me, since they do not have a YouTube channel, to smash that like button. Who plays on a playground for an audience? I wonder to myself as the earlier scenes unfold. What happens when playing on a playground becomes more about creating a video than it does about playing on a playground? Questions I didn't think to ask myself when I saw them creating the video in the first place. Why was that again? In the background of the video, unnoticed by me during our time at the park, was the Wagon Mom's preschooler, the small girl proudly narrating to my daughters how she had managed to scale the small climbing wall to get to the slide. My children had continued filming themselves, pausing briefly to acknowledge the slightly younger child and smile at her encouragingly. Just as quickly, my middle daughter turned back toward the camera and focused on the anticipated viewer beyond her hand. The little girl wandered off the video screen. Revisiting the footage, my youngest children laugh and light up at their video. I smile too. It's charming to see the world as they saw it, the camera zooming by me talking on the bench, the action of the camera spinning around as each girl took turns filming and narrating their playground experience. They didn't have a YouTube channel of their own, but they had seen enough of other children's channels, and they had amateur and professional channels they subscribed to through my account. They had favorites, like Cookie Swirl C, who started out making videos with Play-Doh and plastic eggs, and currently live streams her adult self playing Roblox, an Lego-like user-generated game world. Lately, they are admiring a California woman, Sophie, who entertains viewers with challenges conducted by her contortionist self and her supportive, if less flexible, brother. While my children didn't have a channel, they certainly had a style, and it was one of enthusiasm. Developmental researchers point out that 3 factors need to be taken into account while evaluating the appropriateness of a technology for a child: the content on the screen, the context in which the tech is being used, and the age and characteristics of each individual child. Researchers such as Lisa Guernsey were interested in these 3 C's as critical elements of children's digital media to support personalized or adaptive learning, as well as the ability of digital cameras and audio recording applications to help children create their own stories and build narrative skills. All the experts describing how to build skills in adults and children are revealing the one big message: these are no longer optional aspects of parenting. Teachers, school administrators, and other caregivers all face the challenges of preparing themselves and children for navigating their media-rich world in a landscape that allows for minimal supervision of children online. Protecting, preventing, procrastinating. The key to protecting children online comes first in understanding development across the lifespan, and second in understanding the important role adults have in sharing culture and values with young people. Whether you are sitting awake at night worried over who can talk to your kid in their latest Roblox adventure, or fearful that a child might be manipulated into an online suicide challenge, at the end of the day, our strategies for protecting kids have to go deeper than simply setting a time limit on screen use or knowing our child's passwords. What we know about all development over the course of a life is that knowledge comes before ability, which comes before sound judgment in applying knowledge and ability. For example, consider a toddler learning to walk. The toddler learns how to stumble full-heartedly forward with great energy and eventually learns how to maintain balance while doing so. That's knowledge. The same toddler being able to consistently balance and ambulate in the direction in which it wishes to is ability, the ability to run and even jump while still maintaining equilibrium. As caring adults, we understand that as that toddler increases the capacity to run and jump, stand or balance, what's still lacking is the judgment of when exactly to use those skills, say, to stay safe on the sidewalk or to cross a busy road. It's why we run so quickly after a 3-year-old who's approaching the edge of the sidewalk or driveway. Yes, the child can walk, but we don't expect the child to exercise good judgment or to cross highways safely. What does running after our children need to look like in a digital world, and what are the rules of the roadways we are protecting? Like Ben's grandfather, I find myself hoping we get this right before we've lost the chance. 2. Selfies, Ussies, and Attachment. In 1976, the year I was born, a developmental psychologist working with infants and parents created an innovative research technique using a brand new technology, the video recorder. Dr. Tronick created films for use in his research on infant cognition. His actual research focused on the ways in which the mother and infant were or were not in sync with one another's attention and mood. In his lab, he filmed mothers' faces as they interacted with their infants, sitting in a reclining seat at eye level to the mom. He also filmed the faces of the infants, interacting and responding to their mom. He synchronized his recordings so that he and his research assistants could count and record the types of facial responses the infant made when interacting with the mother. The films of these observational experiments became known as still face because Dr. Tronick not only recorded what happened when mother and infant interacted, But he also recorded what happened when the mother stopped responding and engaging with the infant, who was secured in the seat and too young to physically maneuver for the mom's attention. Dr. Tronick speculated that infants could communicate even before they could produce language. What he captured is truly illuminating even today, more than 45 years later. In his remake of the project in the early 2000s, a young white brunette mother makes joyous expressions to her 6-month-old infant who coos and gurgles in sweet reply. The screen shows mom on one side, baby on the other, and the viewer is able to see the beautiful ballet that happens between a pre-verbal child and parent. Mom's eyebrows shoot up. In milliseconds, her babies do too. Mom's chin lowers. Soon does baby's. Then a pivot. Baby leads, and mom is making baby gurgle sounds in reply. Then a light flashes and a subtle shift occurs. Mom looks away and then returns her gaze. Instead of a joyful, expressive face, she is vacant, neutral, and unengaged in her gaze. The baby notices right away. A frantic waving of arms follows his ignored cooing. Nothing from mom in reply. Leg kicks, then squeals, then a twisting torso shifting away from the whole visual field as he becomes so distressed that he almost tries to lean out of his seat to avoid even seeing mom's completely still face. They eventually called these patterns in the parent-child attachment dyad ruptures and repairs, and these moments of vulnerability became known as touchpoints. The ideas revolutionized family support programs at every level of care, from case management to health care to infant mental health, an area of practice that was not as effective until the Touchpoints revolution unfolded. The innovation beyond the filming and observing was in the approach to support families by offering guidance that anticipated the child's developmental milestones through age 6, but also recognized the likely regressions in other areas that would accompany that new skill, feeling, or idea. Baby slept through the night peacefully, but suddenly at 7 months he's up all night again? Many families would throw in the sleep training towel if that happened out of the blue, while Dr. Tronick and Dr. Brazelton were able to help the parent anticipate that change and reinforce the appropriateness of routine and responsiveness. Touchpoints, the center he eventually developed to train others in the approach, and the books he and Dr. Sparrow wrote by the same name, set off a revolution in working with children and their families, and the programs and books the center created over the years guided millions of families through the hurdles of their child's early years, from infant sleeping to toilet training to social relationships for preschoolers. Many families drew on the foundation of that work to guide them through the tumult and transformations that adolescence brings, certainly another period of vulnerability in the life of the family and child, and when other family relationships and professional identities are likely also shifting. Babies and Facebook and iPhones, oh my. For many families, parenthood begins during a time when other developmental milestones are happening for the parents as well. Baby enters the world when mom is about to start a new management role, or baby enters the world when dad is about to join the military out of high school. Lots of adult developmental changes accompany and parallel the transition to parenting. For me, my parenting journey began as my professional journey was ramping up. As I welcomed my 5 children, I was also navigating a tenure-track faculty appointment, handling a professional credentialing process, and becoming an entrepreneur in order to build a clinical practice and revenue flexibility during a fickle chapter of American higher education. To say I had a lot going on would be an understatement. A large part of my ability to engage so many efforts had to do with my adoption and use of technology. In 2006, as a college educator in the greater Boston area, my university email enabled me to join Facebook. In that same year, my first child was born. By 2007, the iPhone had been released, and by the end of that year, my second child was born. Professionally, I used my phone to juggle the calendar, send documents to student researchers, and coordinate conference calls for community meetings. Juxtaposed in my personal life, I used it to capture small moments of nurturing my children, logging sleep schedules and nursing schedules between courses. In January 2008, I posted my first pictures of my children on Facebook from my smartphone. My son is 6 weeks old in the photo, my daughter is 23 months, and I am 30. My husband had taken the photo of the three of us playing on a slide near my sister's Florida apartment, where we visited her during...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?